this is not working. We know that this is not working now. And it's unfortunate that it's not working because it does have something to do with Lonzo being hurt. But our timeline is running out now. DeMar's contract runs out at the end of next year. Vucevic's contract runs out at the end of this year. If we lose one of those two guys, which I think is like probably likely in some respect, right? Or if DeMar drops off in some respect because he's 34, if I remember correctly, like this becomes very, very difficult to get out of in a hurry. They actually have a chance to like parachute out of this relatively quickly if they want to. This is their chance though. Like in season right now is their chance to parachute out of this. And that's why I think they have to take it.
Yeah. And if you watch the last couple games, like it's tough to make the argument that they're just Lonzo Ball away. Also, Lonzo Ball still can't walk up a flight of stairs. Like there was just an update that he tried to run and he can't run. So it's like, okay, he suffered this injury 11 months ago and he can't run. Like it would have been hypothetically better if he tore his ACL and Achilles at the same time. Instead, he's got this weird bone bruise that is like a little bit unprecedented. Kendrick Nunn had the same injury actually, and he missed also like 2 years essentially. So it just doesn't seem like this team is even close to being a 500 team at this point, given the way they've played the last couple weeks. And while I did not want to blow it up before the last couple games, at this point, I'm like, let's do like trade half these guys. Keep Pat Will. Maybe you keep Zach because I think Zach's value is probably at its lowest. Certainly you listen to offers for him. And, you know, just like that salary cap number, $215 million is going to be a lot for teams to potentially take on. You know, if you get a good offer for Zach, I would trade Zach. But, you know, I probably wouldn't trade him for like, let's say the Knicks Wizards lottery protected pick. And like the Knicks have like all these like weird protected picks. Like, don't they have like,
so yeah, like pick? If you're, so I would not move Zach LaVine for almost any iteration that the Knicks can put together. You know, maybe in like I like RJ Barrett. RJ has not been great this year, but like I would probably, I don't know, but I wouldn't want RJ with DeMar, so then I'd have to move DeMar. Like the Knicks packages become complicated. You would have to get like 3 first-round picks or something like that, with one with very minimal protection, something like that. Like, and I just don't know if you're going to get that.
Yeah, from that I would do,
right,
for sure. But I also doubt that's out there. So I think what
I do too.
Is you probably got to trade Vooch because he's an expiring deal. I do think there's a possibility they could re-sign him, similar to like the Al Horford deal with the Celtics. Horford, I think, signed for like $14 million a year. So basically, you'd have to give Vooch a pay cut, which he's probably not going to be super jacked up about taking. Also, we'll see what the Vooch market is. Like, there's plenty of teams that could use him. So, you know, I would hope they move off him. And then, you know, DeRozan, Caruso. I feel like Caruso, low-key, might have the best trade value on the team. There was a viral clip of Steve Kerr coming up to him and basically mouthing, "I wish we had you on our team." So could there potentially be something there with the Warriors? Who knows? I'm sure Caruso would have a massive market.
He would have the widest market. Yeah. I think DeRozan would bring back the most because his contract is actually like eminently reasonable. Totally. He's still on like $28 million a year for how good he is. Yeah. And he only has a year and a half. So you'd get him for 2 playoff runs. I think he'd bring back the most. I think because Caruso is making like $10 million a year, he would have the most suitors. I just don't think that it would drive up the market to where it gets past DeRozan's.
Yeah. And DeRozan, there's been a lot of smoke with the Lakers. So here's my one thing on like, if the Bulls are to pivot off this, I'm not sure how much a 2027 and 2029 pick helps you. I mean, if they're unprotected, sure. But like by that time, like the Lakers will probably have Luka or Ja or Zion because that's what they do in every generation, right? Like it's Booker. It's like
it's not that
with the Lakers. They did it with Wilt, Kareem, you know, like it just Shaq, LeBron. this is what happens. So those picks aren't super appealing to me. What I want are picks in this draft because you could speak to this more than I could, Sam, even though, it's my beat too. Just because you're better at it doesn't mean I can't have an opinion on it.
I don't know
but
about
the
that.
2024 draft is just not looking enticing to me, really. I don't know who the number one player is. I could tell you who I would take, but 2024 looks pretty weak, I think. We'll see. A lot can change. It's so early.
I will also note 2025 evaluators are not wildly excited about.
Not great either. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
this is the one to get into. Yeah.
Totally.
So you mentioned the Lakers pick as well. I want to just talk about that real quick. I don't really care if you think that they're valuable. I don't really care if I think they're valuable. The guy that I think almost certainly does not find them valuable is Arturas Karnisovas, because if he goes and gets those picks and brings back nothing of value for the next 3 years, he's not going to be the one to use those picks. You know what I mean? I don't see a world where he thinks those are the ones to go get at the end.
Yeah, you'd have to go 4 seasons before the first of those picks comes to fruition. So I don't know. But if I'm ideally, I was thinking about this after the horrible loss yesterday. DeRozan, Vooch, AC. Could you get 3 first-round picks for those guys in various iterations, plus one semi-interesting young guy, like a Cam Reddish type or something? I don't know if you could get this up to Moses Moody, but that would be wonderful. But the point is, their pick top 4 protected this year, most likely gone. Even if they were to have the worst record in the NBA, which will be tough to get to, they'd have a 49% chance of that pick landing at number 5 and conveying to the Magic. So you can't really base it all off of let's get in the Wembanyama Scoot sweepstakes, because most likely you're not getting that pick. But you could maximize your odds at getting that, or increase your odds at getting it a little bit more. And you could just pick up some future assets. If the Kings want to give up their first round pick for Caruso, throw in some matching salary, maybe that's a deal the Bulls do. The Bulls already hopefully will get the Blazers pick if the Blazers make the playoffs. So, add in another pick in that range, maybe in the 18 to 24 range. The Bulls don't have much in the cupboard right now, man. I think that might be the type of trade that might be beneficial for them.
Because look, at the end of the day, like you said, they're probably not keeping this pick in this year's draft. It would
their own pick. Yeah.
Yeah, their own pick. They're not keeping their own pick because, like you said, 49% chance that even if they suck.
Yeah. Even if they're the worst team in the league, it's a 49% chance. They lose it. So
no matter what they do, they are more likely than not to lose their pick in this year's upcoming draft. So just trying to pinpoint teams here, right? I wonder if Toronto works for Nikola Vucevic, right? He doesn't really fit Project 6'9", in terms of movement, in terms of athleticism, everything. But honestly, I kind of think that guys maybe not Scotty, but I think that guys like OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet's ability to get over ball screens, those guys really would insulate him in some way. And I wonder if you could get a top 16 protected pick in the 2023 draft from Toronto, where they keep all the upside if they continue to not do well, but then maybe long-term they do something like that. I legit think they would get a first rounder for Caruso. It would be a late first rounder, but I think that there are way too many teams that would be willing to give up that pick. Can you imagine? I think Memphis would sprint. They would be this only costs our 2023 first. Yes. Here.
Exactly. Yeah. And then can you take on maybe a bad contract? Let's say Duncan Robinson, who the Heat are trying to get off, get 2 firsts for Caruso. Robert Covington once fetched 2 firsts from the Blazers. So I think it's maybe possible. Take on a bad contract, and give them Caruso, maybe Javante, maybe Kobe White.
The other interesting one, and I would not recommend Charlotte does this, but Charlotte just doesn't do things that I agree with regularly, and I have no idea what they're trying to do. I wonder if Charlotte sees Vucevic as someone that's oh yeah, would make life easier on LaMelo Ball, Steve Clifford, obviously has a history with him, so he knows the defensive scheme. Maybe something like that. Like,
Yeah.
could
How
could you
about
get that? Could you get that late first rounder that Charlotte has, like from Denver, right, for Vooch?
would love that. How about I'm thinking maybe not for Vooch specifically, but like the Mavs pick owned by the Knicks, top 10 protected. Like, could there be something that brings back that? Maybe you take on Fournier, give him DeRozan, or give him Caruso. I mean, maybe Vooch. I don't really know what the Knicks would want, but they're a team that could be buyers, and they have multiple picks in this draft. So if you could get the Mavs top 10 protected pick, I don't know where that's going to slot in. Probably, 15, 14, 13, somewhere around there. That could be a good one to go after. And I think I maybe had one more. How about the Heat, I think, could be a good fit for Vooch or for DeRozan or for Caruso, really. And what about the Nets on the Sixers pick? Would they maybe you could see them as a Vooch destination? I think Vooch would help the Nets quite a bit. They could certainly also use, DeRozan or Caruso as well. So
For what it's worth, I don't like Vooch on the Nets. They've won so far this year by getting back to defense and protecting the rim. And, I think Nick Claxton has been very, very good this year, as we talked about on the episode with Schindler earlier this week. And it's another guy that just kind of clogs up the mid range for Kevin Durant. And that's just not what you want if you're KD, right?
yeah, Vooch can shoot a little bit, but he's not great as a shooter. He's average at best, and the percentage has been better this year. It's 36%. But his only truly good shooting season was the season with no fans. He hit 40%. That was clearly the outlier if you look at his career percentages. So good pushback. I think in general, I would be targeting early draft picks. Give me 23 ideally, or I'll even take 24, 25. When you're talking about 27 and 29, it's dude, that's just too far away. And I don't see how they could come close to building a playoff caliber team in the 2020s if they were to, potentially target picks that late. I think Miami has a 26 pick. Could you get a 23 and a 26 from them for taking on Duncan Robinson and maybe giving them some pieces? I don't know sort of what the machinations of these deals could look like. A lot of these picks that you'd want to get can't be traded because of the stepping
right.
The Warriors owe a top 4 protected pick to the Grizzlies next year. Ooh, that pick could be spicy if you think about where the Warriors are at right now. Grizzlies, they just always do this, right? But so if you want the Warriors pick this year, I don't think you can get it because of the stepping rule. So the Hawks, I think, are another team like that, where obviously all their future picks are going to San Antonio. Not sure if they're allowed to trade the pick this year or sort of what that looks like, but there's some complications to these deals. I think big picture sense, if you could keep Zach, Lonzo, Pat Will, Dalen Terry, and Io, somehow acquire 3 first-round picks for Caruso, Vooch, and DeRozan, maybe one semi-interesting young guy in that mix as well. And then you maximize the odds of keeping your pick this year, which is probably gone, and which will probably be a Thompson twin and just make me horribly heartbroken. But it's likely to happen. The Bulls are going to get their ass kicked all season, and the most painful day of the year is going to be when they lose the draft pick at the end of the season. But I think that might be the path forward. Flip a few guys, try to get some future first, try to get those first as soon as possible, and take on a bad contract if it'll get you, more assets in the future, and just see if you can sort of find a little bit of a safe landing out of an otherwise really poor situation. Because otherwise, Sam, they're in a rough spot, dude. I don't really see a way for them to forget title contender, just even a team that could get win a playoff series. It's going to be very, very difficult. It hinges a lot on if Lonzo can come back and be Lonzo. I hope he can. That'd be just a big loss for basketball if he can't. Forget a loss for the Bulls, but just for the game in general.
Here's another question. If a team would take the Lonzo deal, would you do it?
Yeah, I think you'd have to. He's
I think
provided zero value, for $20 million this season.
And I don't think a team would. Earlier I think this month I brought up the idea, like, the Clippers really struggle with ball movement. They have an owner that has unlimited pockets. Like, could the Clippers say, you know what? We're willing to take this year off with Lonzo and just hope that he comes back with what he had previously in terms of moving the ball, getting easy buckets in transition, being able to space the floor from three for our guys like Paul George and Kawhi, who initiate the half-court offense a lot of the time anyway. So you'd essentially just have Lonzo being the connective tissue guy, which I think would really help them.
Yeah.
But again, like, that would require a team being like, we're willing to take on all the risk of like paying him $50 million for a guy that like might never play for us at this point, it seems like.